Hi, everybody. This is yet another DuskBreakers AMA, Community AMA. My name is Bernie Sue. Got a lot of people with me today, and we have an extra special guest. Just going to introduce the team members who will be speaking today. Maybe more will jump on, but we have planned. We've got Jason, we got Joshy, and we got Style Piggy joining us today on the speaker horn to talk to Meta Outfitter, or Meta Theory, or Alex Chu of Zoofrenz and Zombot Studios joining us. Those of you who don't know, Zombot has been an awesome partner with us, done some giveaways, done some partnerships, still thinking about other things to do that we're going to be doing together. Work in progress as we go. And with that, I'm just going to throw it to my co-hosts to bring up our guest or talk about the community first. Jason, Joshy, go for it.
I'll just jump in and say welcome, everybody. Obviously, people are still trickling in, but we're happy to be hosting yet another AMA here. We do them every 2 weeks, and every other AMA we bring on a special guest. So Meta Outfitter from Zoofrenz, very kind to join us this week. We've had a couple of partnerships with them in the past where we've collaborated and given away some whitelists, given away some float tanks. Obviously, the Zoofrenz audience knows all about that, but we can learn more about it through the AMA today. And Alex Chu, obviously, a lot of experience in art and design, and that is kind of a specialty that we've not yet had as a guest. We've had, project leads, influencers, writers, and, art is really something that Alex brings to the table that we can, pick his brain, maybe a little bit more specialty questions. But Zoofrenz, again, one of our partners, you can check them out. Alex will be speaking from that account. It looks like not Meta Outfitter. So that is his personal. Zoofrenz is the project one. Click on through there to, check out all their website and secondary sales, all that stuff if you're interested. But first things first, honestly, just welcome, Alex. Hope you're doing well. Is there anything, you'd like to say just to start off here?
Hey, thanks for the kind intro, Joshy. And thanks for having me on, guys. I'm really excited to have this opportunity to share with your community and talk about Zoofrenz a little bit.
Cool. So, first things first is let's get a little bit of a feel for your experience coming into, obviously, the NFT industry or Web3, relatively new in the last couple of years. Not everyone has, 10 years of Web3 experience because that's just not a thing. So why don't you fill us in a little bit on your career leading up to the sort of industry that we're in now? What games or titles, projects are you most proud of or bring to the table here now in this new industry?
Yeah, sure. So personally, my career is pretty straightforward. It's just always has been in games, in the game industry. And I started out working on AAA games as a concept artist. Worked on Halo Reach and Destiny, as well as some other games before moving on to a company called Kabam on social and mobile free-to-play games. So this was already a decade ago, but it was the early days where we saw a huge shift in the industry from the typical kind of premium model into the free-to-play model. And it was very interesting because as somebody that went through that phase in the games space, now looking at what's happening in the the Web3 space with play to earn, there's a lot of similarities and both the disruption that's happening in the space as well as kind of how people are responding to the whole shift in momentum. Anyways, that's my background personally. Started out working in games and then eventually moved on to starting my own game company, which is Zombot Studio. So Zombot, we started out as a game developer as well. In the beginning, we developed a few mobile titles. They were featured on both Apple and Google platforms. So it was one of those situations where the game was very critically well received, but we are a VC-backed company and it didn't kind of turn into a hit. So, after developing a couple titles, we decided to pivot our studio into a production team. So right now, for the past several years, we've been kind of helping our competitors, so to speak, build content and IP for their games. So right now we're helping out with League of Legends on, building skins for them. We're helping Destiny with weapon design, skin designs. We're helping out on a new Tom Clancy game that's coming out on skin designs and weapon designs as well, as well as other partners like Nintendo, Supercell, so on and so forth. So just people that we used to try to compete with, now we're just kind of allies now, and helping these big companies and have the privilege of working on some really awesome titles. But in the back of my mind, even though financially Zombot is doing really well for the past few years, I just kind of always thought I wanted to have our own IP and our own product still as a company. So I've always been looking for a way to get back into building our own product, without taking on a huge risk of, hey, we're just going to, put together a couple $1 million to build a game and roll the dice to see if it's going to become a hit. And when I got in touch with the NFT space last year, around, I think it was early February, the kind of the very first wave that hit the general public was when I noticed NFTs. So I started out collecting Top Shots and some artwork on Nifty Gateway, and immediately clicked inside my head because my background is I'm a digital artist, right? So all of my art is done on the computer. Now, I think as a digital artist these days, you get paid pretty well, I would say. But, if you compare yourself to like a fine artist that does gallery work, a good fine artist or gallery artist, they can sell paintings for millions of dollars, right? So, even though we have consistent pay as a digital artist, it was kind of a pipe dream for us to get to that point where, we could hang our work in a gallery and have people come in and pay a ton of money for it. So when I saw NFTs, that kind of clicked in my head. And it's like, oh, this is kind of the answer that we've been looking for. Because for ages, people have been saying, hey, your digital art isn't worth anything other than the idea itself. Because you can just easily, duplicate these artwork on your computer, and there's no way you can sign it and say it's like a singular piece of art. With NFTs, all that kind of goes away, right? So immediately I was super drawn into it. And in the middle of last year was when I pulled our studio into the NFT space as well, and I asked our team to kind of incubate different ideas to see what we can, how we can leverage all these artists and creators in our company to build our own product. So Zoofrenz was the one idea that came out on top from all these different things that we tried out. And yeah, we launched in February successfully, sold out 6,666 pieces of NFT, and it's been 2 months and a super wild ride so far.
Awesome. So it sounds like, you've had, the startup experience with the VC backing and maybe not quite reaching their expectations, having to pivot, now working with other studios, which is still, great work and resume builders, and, it's giving your studio notoriety. But then there's that aspiration, that potential, it sounds like, of, getting your own art out into the world and respected and highly appreciated. So that's cool to hear. Again, you're one of our more specialty art guests that we've had. So one of my questions later was going to be sort of related to art versus utility. I think we can kind of combine questions here now, just based on your great answer and how much context you gave. So Zombot Studio, I'm curious, before Zoofrenz, it sounds like, you obviously have multiple people working there. I'm curious the team size and like how many artists actually are in-house at Zombot.
Yeah, so we are a little bit different as a studio. We operate pretty lean. So the business model that we use is called liquid agency model. And you can kind of think of this as we're sort of like a hybrid talent agency, content production house, where internally, right now we have two offices. One is in Taipei and another one is in Vietnam. And in-house, we have a total of about 20 artists in-house. And then externally, this is where the liquid agency model comes in. We have a Rolodex of these artists and designers that we've worked with just in the past almost 10 years since starting the company. And depending on the client that comes to us, if a client comes to us and say, hey, we have the sci-fi game that we really would like you to come and help us design some cool weapons, then, we'll go into our Rolodex of artists and bring on these sci-fi weapons experts to help out. So, in short, at any time, we're probably utilizing somewhere between, I would say 30 to 50 artists to work on different projects.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So obviously, a lot of minds there. Would you say that, let's just, move forward here to Zoofrenz specifically. It sounds like you had a few different ideas. The art gallery comparison, that is sort of a problem solved, the licensing of digital art essentially with the NFT non-fungible tokens. And there are things like digital art galleries now that can be, spun up and things like that as well in VR or augmented reality even. So it's really cool to see that growth as well, like the different avenues that can be explored. So Zoofrenz specifically has kind of a not just art, but utility as well. And this is where we get into the project itself a little bit. So Zoofrenz, it's not just art. It is 3D profiles, social aspect as well. Why don't you just give us kind of an overview of your vision for Zoofrenz? Like why did you end up going this route instead of just an art project as well?
Yeah, sure. So, there's been an interesting kind of journey that we took before we arrived at Zoofrenz and the vision of what it is now. So, when we started as a team to look at NFT projects middle of last year, I think the space as a whole was still very turbulent. There's a lot of teams pushing out different ideas, but things were constantly shifting, and we weren't really seeing a reason why we should enter the space. Because at the time, to be honest, the art at the time, back then in maybe August, there were some projects with decent art, but for the most part, people were also buying into art that's not very good. So for us, as a team full of really seasoned game artists looking at the content that people were producing, we were, to be honest, a little perplexed. Hey, is it, if we push out really high quality art, are people actually going to appreciate it, or do they just want? I think there was a term that Gary Vee used called trash art. Some of these artworks that came out were very super heavily focused on memes and simplicity. So I think it wasn't until when Facebook announced that they were shifting their name to Meta and having this whole push towards the metaverse, that's when it kind of, we as a team felt like, oh, this is something that, we can get behind. Because I've always been interested in, we're a game company. I've been interested in the whole development of metaverse. But I think before Facebook made that announcement, it was also hard for me to be convinced that, there was going to be enough momentum for the metaverse to be, have a chance to, make it into the mainstream. So I think with that Facebook push and then Sandbox and Decentraland, kind of gaining momentum, we decided to, leverage our ability to not just build beautiful 2D art, but we have a full team of, 3D artists that also build assets for these AAA games to leverage their experience in building these high quality 3D characters in games to turn it into an IP that can be one of the first in the metaverse, right? So the way I kind of envision this is, if we look at the evolution of TFTs, we have the kind of the very first iteration, which was CryptoPunks, and they are the first ones, or I mean, it's the first ones to really kind of take it into mainstream popularity to do the random kind of 10K generated sets. And then we have next iteration, which are like Bored Ape, what else? CyberCons, and they have random generated PFPs, but also with utility attached to it. So that was kind of the second wave of PFPs that came in with more complexity and better art. And then now I think the third wave that we're seeing is a lot of these metaverse-focused projects. I think you guys included, right? With DuskBreakers, you guys are also trying out a lot of different things in the Web3 space. So I think our contribution to the space pushing forward is, for us with Zoofrenz specifically, when we talk about metaverse, we are not just talking about a static 3D render image, like some of these other projects have. What we're doing is we are building a fully rigged, animated character model that our users or holders can just download and put this file into any metaverse and use it as their metaverse PFP, so to speak, right? Because we have the kind of 2D PFPs that you can use on Twitter, you can use on Instagram as your identity. But once you go into, if we're imagining a couple years out when the metaverse become more mature, once you go into the metaverse, you need a 3D avatar that you can use, right? So I think a lot of projects are trying to race to that point. But we have slightly of an advantage just because of our, as a team, we're already built to produce these kind of work. So that's kind of the genesis of why we decided to build Zoofrenz as kind of this metaverse IP. And with regards to like how it looks, I think we just wanted to build something that has a very positive vibe and can attract a mainstream audience. Because with the metaverse, the idea of metaverse becoming mainstream later on, we also wanted to have art that's not just focused purely on the current Web3 audience, but we're looking at the consumers as a whole and trying to build something that I think will appease to everybody. Visually.
Absolutely, yeah. It's that's going to be one of the toughest parts for any of these NFT projects is adoption and education about the space, where so many pitfalls exist, so many rugs or scams or whatever, and people are very particular about their money already. And it's in the gaming space, DuskBreakers. Clearly, we're building toward a play and earn experience. We've mentioned it as far back as November and December when we did our first Genesis Mint. And you mentioned things like being able to have assets in multiple projects, like potentially a 3D Zoofren could walk around the Dusk, 6 months from now and shoot gribbles or whatever. Like that stuff's already starting to happen. And I think a lot of naysayers or just not educated yet opinions were basically like, oh, well, I'm never going to be able to use my Fortnite skin in Apex Legends. And it's like, yeah, that's a different infrastructure, right? They weren't building for that, and now we are. So we've got friends like Zombot and MetaTheory and Crypto Walkers, for example, made a DuskBreakers rifle NFT that we just provided art and thumbs up for, and they did it themselves and put it in their game or their future assets, and that's super exciting to me. I mean, there are no limits really. It's like full user generated content, but from actual $1 million backed studios. It's going to create some really, really awesome social experiences, especially, if everyone's, playing games or having nice parties and stuff as a bunch of Zoofrenz or a bunch of DuskBreakers down the line. So I think personally, I've been in like VR chat sort of circles before as far back as like 2018, where you don't even need VR. You just need a desktop client, go hang out, and, people can build whatever they want. Now it's coming to a head with actual products and experiences. It's evolving quickly. So I love hearing all of that. Partnerships specifically are something that, benefit a lot of these projects now as the market gets very saturated. You mentioned art on its own you don't know if people are going to actually appreciate the time and effort and, you know, actual skill that goes into it when you have these other projects that are literally just NS Paint, you know, pixels on a JPEG or whatever. So it's tough when you view it against an entire market, but when you've got friends building together and sharing experiences, you know, partners, collaboration, all that stuff, you know, synergizes to end up being more than the sum of its parts. So that all sounds great. If people are listening now and they want to get involved with Zoofrenz, what ways can they attach to Zoofrenz right now?
Yeah, so with the current, so I mean, we're called Zoofrenz, but right now it's ape. It's the NFT is an ape. We call them ape friends, and the plan is to eventually have multiple releases of different animals. Therefore, the name Zoo. But if you want to get into our ecosystem right now that we're creating, you can go on OpenSea and get the first release, which is Zoofrenz, Ape Friends. We have a 2.0 collection. That's the main one that we are kind of running out these events and activities under. Yeah. But we have a lot of exciting. We're actually planning on announcing a updated roadmap for all these different things that we've planned out. You know, the metaverse events, the other animals that we'll be releasing later this year, as well as you know, some more mysterious kind of features that we're planning for the rest of the year. Next week, I think that's when we'll be announcing it.
Is that alpha next week?
Yeah. We've been kind of keeping it under wraps, actually. Yeah. Because a lot of our holders. So I guess I'll go into a little bit about Zoofrenz utility.
Sure.
Yeah, because we're a game studio, so when we're designing the kind of the roadmap of our first release, the Ape Friends, we wanted to really give it a twist that hasn't been, you know, seen too many times before in the space. So with the 2D Ape Friends NFT, once you mint it, what you would get is a couple different things. First of all, we have this token that we'll be using in our ecosystem of these different NFTs. So with the token, you could purchase a couple different things. By the way, token is time generated. So as long as you hold your 2D NFT, the Ape Friends, you can generate tokens over time. You just go to our website and claim the tokens, and you can use them on various different things. So the things that you could use them on, the very first one was the float tanks. So the float tanks is something that we came up with as a feature to kind of allow people that didn't draw super rare stuff in the beginning, upon reveal. They can use the float tanks to essentially re-roll into a different NFT. So we will take your float tank and your original 2D Ape Friend, and then combine these two items. We'll burn them and then give you a new Ape Friends. So that's our the 2.0 collection I was talking about. With the we call it Awakening. With these Awakened Ape Friends from the float tank, we have a set of new traits in there as well. So yeah, even for holders of the original Ape Friends, if they re-roll, they're not going to, there's a chance that they might get something better. There's a chance that they might also get something not as good or equal in terms of ranking. But the kind of promise that we want to make to our holder is, if you go through the awakening process, you'll probably get a lot of cool new traits that wasn't available in the original collection. And then the kind of other thing that we are offering is obviously the kind of main course that we're building towards, which are the 3D playable characters that you can also get with the 3D with the token that we have, the friendship token.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So the 3D profile, or not profile, but 3D NFTs, what is the ultimate plan? Games, social experiences?
Yeah, so this is something that our community has been asking us ever since we, started the flow tank, because, I think one thing that we realize is the community, they are always hungry for more things. So as soon as we release something, they are already looking at the next feature that's coming out, right? So now that we are through with most of the features that we planned out for, the last 2 months, people are asking, okay, so 3D is coming next, but what can I do with the characters? So I can't really reveal too much about like where the usability of the 3D character model is yet. I mean, obviously we're trying to put ourselves into as many metaverses as possible, but looking at the space right now, all the metaverses that's available at the moment, including the ones that's coming out soon, like other sites, they are probably still some time away from being ready for the general public, right? It feels very much like everything is in like an alpha beta state right now. So, while we're trying to figure out which metaverses we can put ourselves into and talking to these different companies about integrating our Zoofrenz characters into them, we'll also be building out experiences of our own. And the vision is kind of, I think for Zoofrenz, we want to turn ourselves into, it's a kind of a tall ask. We want to turn ourselves into a Nintendo of Web3, where we're building these cute creatures and then, eventually tie them all together into experiences of our own. So this can be in the form of a kind of a small game like the ones that you guys have for the whitelist, the game that you guys have on your website.
Yep, we did a play to mint experience. Yeah.
The play to mint game, right? So something like that where our player can go in and play this game and have an experience of interacting using your character, your 3D playable character, and with other players, but not necessarily as large of an experience as like a whole metaverse. I think because we know that that's some time away, we want to be able to build these smaller experiences in between to just let our holders have fun and know that, hey, you don't have to wait a year or 2 years before everything is ready. In between, we'll have these small kind of snack bite sizes experience for you to play with.
Yeah. So our we're in the same boat. Our game, Q3 2022 was kind of the original plan. So everyone who's already in the project is being very patient. So you're right, absolutely, that most things feel like they're in an alpha or beta stage right now. It feels like if the starting line was like June of last year, then, a bunch of people were there at the start, but now people are showing up late, right? So we've got projects coming in from every single direction, established artists and animators and game studios, and it's only a matter of time before, in my opinion, you've got McDonald's and Target as well, offering discount NFTs and things like that and experiences. They're going to want to be in the metaverse as well. So it is interesting. Everyone is still building, and then how do you fill that time between announcement and we're playing games together? That's a lot of time. That could be a year, 2 years before you ultimately land where you want to be or where you envisioned. And hiring and resources are always part of that as well. And Zombot Studio sounds like very fortunate. You guys are working with something established and building something alongside your established business. Meta Theory, we're kind of in a different boat where it was kind of a brand new founded company with the intent of building. And, myself, Jason, and Style Piggy here all were hired in the last couple of months out of the community. So Meta Theory is still very much building, hiring all the time as well. And building these experiences is tough. So that's why I'm a community lead here at DuskBreakers. We're doing things like contests and mini game offerings, contests, competitions, art, draw us a gribble and maybe win an NFT or a whitelist, stuff like that we're having to also be innovative here, while the engineers and the artists do their hard work, right? So definitely understand where you're coming from there. So Julia, Style Piggy here, actually is very into your project and has some more extensive knowledge about it than I do. She's written some more specific questions. So Julia, do you want to go ahead and take this chance to ask Alex some questions?
I mean, you did a really good job in asking a lot of the questions that I had, that I was curious about. A lot of my questions is it's much more specific, and Yeah. So I'm just gonna go
Go
ahead.
ahead. Be specific. That's fine.
So I know, Zoofrenz, you guys had part of your strategy was partnerships, and you guys had a really big one with Zombie Club, which is they grabbed a lot of media attention here in Taiwan. So I just wanted to ask, like, how did that came about, and how did you guys make that happen?
Oh, the Zombie Club partnership, we have a really close relationship with them. So, it's kind of hard to explain, but I think this is just like another one of those Web3 stories where it's like, I have a friend that heard that I'm working on, NFT stuff. And then he told me, hey, I have some other friends that's also, doing NFTs. You want to meet them? And then, Taiwan's a small state, right? So Taipei is a pretty small city. We have a thriving kind of community here. So I was introduced to the guys, through this friend to the Zombie Club guys. And, I kind of came into a conversation without actually realizing who these guys are. And then, it's like, I walked into a room and then started talking about, oh, hey, so how long have you guys been collecting NFTs? And then they said, since like 3 years ago. And this was last year. So I was like, wait, 3 years, like 2-3 years ago? Like, what do you guys have? CryptoPunks? And then they're like, oh yeah, we have like, 20 or 30 between us. And I found out that these are actually the guys that, was behind the Christie's auction during summer last year, so it kind of blew me away. And that was kind of the start of our relationship. We just kind of hit it off, and they were in the very kind of inception phases of coming up with the idea of Zombie Club, and we just bounced and ripped ideas off of each other. And that's kind of how we built our relationship. So when the idea of Zoofrenz formed, we kind of pushed our project out, and then Zombie Club was also one of the partners that we helped kind of build some content with. So it was the partnership was very organic in that sense. We were just along the way kind of helping each other build the project.
That's really cool. Yes, I was always curious on how that came about because it seemed like a very close relationship. So kind of a follow-up question. So does that mean we can expect more things coming out of that partnership?
Yeah. Yes. I mean, I think the partnerships that, like, the extent of our partnership so far has been that whitelist giveaway, right? And I mean, looking back at that whitelist giveaway we gave away hundreds of, not hundreds, 100 whitelists, and that in itself was worth like a ton of money. So we're definitely gonna have more partnerships later on, and more kind of collabs. I don't know if they'll be quite worth the same value because that was kind of like a one-time experience thing. But we're currently actually in talks of building something together. So that there should be an announcement for that down the road. I don't know exactly when, but it's we're talking about like next steps already between the two.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, you heard it here first. Alpha. More partnerships.
Yeah. They kind of also dropped hints here and there. If you go on their original website, I think it does talk about us, like some kind of platform that they mentioned. I don't know if it's not in detail, but we're talking about building something right now. That's all I can say.
Okay. Well, I look forward to that. So another thing that question that I had was because our DuskBreakers is coming out with a second collection soon, and I know Zoofrenz had the whole Awaken launch that happened. And I just kind of want to pick your brain and talk about like the lessons learned from your Awaken launch. And I know you guys did a change from ERC 721 to ERC 1155. There was a migration that happened. So I kind of want to hear from you, like, what do you think worked well for you guys, and what would you have done differently if you had the chance, if any? So, like, something we can learn from based on your experience.
Oh man, yeah. I mean, so Southwick, you sound like one of our holders, so you probably know along the way. And this is the thing about working on Web3 is we come from like a gaming background, right? Where it's relatively easy to push something out, and it's also relatively easy to push out bug fixes. But with Web3, I think that's kind of the difficulty is once you launch a smart contract, there's very little you could do to make changes to it. I mean, you can make some changes to it, but there's probably some stuff on a smart contract that just, once you deploy it onto the blockchain, you can't do anything to it anymore. So, with kind of the complexity of system that we're trying to build with the, like the flow tank and then the friendship token and how all these different contracts, we have like, I think maybe like 10 contracts at this point that interact with each other. So, it becomes pretty complex and to have it be bug free is, relatively difficult, especially considering that, we're trying to push these things out like one after another in a very short period of time. So I think one thing that we would do definitely is to, first of all, extend the amount of time that we would take to develop these new smart contracts and features. I think the intent in the beginning to push things out really quickly is we also realize we're fighting against the, other projects indirectly, right? Because we want to keep the holders' attention by not spending too much time to make new things for them, so they don't have to keep waiting and eventually shift their attention to other projects. But at the same time, internally, we're balancing like, hey, how fast can we work to, not start losing quality on the stuff that we're putting out. So I think we did a really great job on the art side of, making sure everything that comes out is consistent in quality. But in terms of the smart contracts, I definitely feel like maybe we could have taken more time to, test out various aspects of the contract before we push it out. Because, with art, you can actually update it on IPFS if you find bugs. But with smart contracts, it's much more difficult. And that's where it comes in, like what you mentioned earlier, our flow tank started out as a ERC 721, and then we shifted it to 1155. And that was kind of one of these things where, hey, we found a bug, and like immediately after we deployed the contract, fortunately that part didn't really result in any kind of detrimental effect to the, to our NFT holders. But yeah, it was internally, once you release something onto the blockchain, like it doesn't go away. So if they mint an NFT and you found that the contract is buggy, even if you airdrop something new to them, that, that NFT that's already been minted is still going to be there. So it doesn't, that's kind of one advice I would give.
That's a really good advice. Yeah. Thank you for that. And then I'm gonna get to one of our community questions: is how are you feeling about this space so far? Like, are you having fun? Are you enjoying building in Web3?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this definitely beats doing outsourcing work. It's super fun and exciting, and I keep telling people, like, I keep trying to convince my friends in the game space to switch over to doing Web3, and this kind of goes into one of the things that, like we talked about Fortnite and seeing like Apex characters in there, right? That's one thing that I've always wanted to see in games is, kind of these cross partnerships between different companies and, seeing your favorite characters all together in one game. And we do have a couple of titles that have that, like Super Smash Brothers.
Smash Bros came to mind, yeah.
Yeah, but that's like, one of the only ones, right? So I've always wanted to see that in a shooter or, other kind of experiences, but obviously it's very difficult to put all these big corporations together and have them share the IPs. But that's the beauty of Web3. I think all these brands that's being built right now have the mindset that, hey, we're building together as a whole. We're not just, like siloing whatever we're doing to build the best product and beat out everyone else. So we will be seeing a lot of these kind of cross pollination and partnerships between these IPs. And that's what excites me because, when you're building, I think a part of the reason why the space is moving so fast as a whole, it's also because everybody's just sharing their knowledge and, building things together versus just building by themselves. So things are shifting at a hyper speed on a weekly basis in this space.
Cool. Does this mean Zombot Studio is full-time Web3? Because you mentioned.
No.
Oh, okay.
The mixed business. Yeah, they're still doing the traditional. Right.
So I would say like half of our studios work on Zoofrenz right now, and we're actually still expanding the team. The Zoofrenz team, we're expanding on marketing side of things. We're expanding on art and production side of things as well. And like I mentioned earlier, we want to be building our own game experiences. So we're expanding on the engineering side also. But for the time being, I would say half of our business is still in doing outsourcing work for these clients because we have a long engagement with most of our clients, so longer term engagement. So we'll continue to work on these AAA games. But yeah, meanwhile, the other half of the team is just building our own product internally.
Diversifying is good anyway, right? Smart,
well, personally, I'm full-time Web3 already. Yeah, I'm just doing Zoofrenz stuff every day now.
Awesome. Jason, did you happen to have any questions for Alex before we maybe open it up to our Twitter listeners here?
Oh no, I think this has been super well run. And the conversation's been amazing, and I think there's a lot of learning. I certainly heard a bunch of things today that I was super interested in. Other than, as a marketer myself and working some of this stuff, I guess my only real question is, not to say you're going to do it again. Like I don't want to frame this as like when are you doing this? No, not an alpha, but how do you envision like a merch business off of your business, off of the Zoofrenz?
A merch business. Okay. Yeah, so this is also something that we're currently planning because I think being in Taiwan, this is one of the things that people seem to really care about in Taiwan specifically is having these kind of offline gatherings and having physical stuff that they can touch, right? So they don't feel like, hey, I'm just making friends online and never seeing them, and it doesn't I'm building a brand, but it doesn't seem to be materializing. So I think with merch, that's what it does. It helps, build camaraderie, and the sense of belonging and put them in kind of a more physical sense, for your holders. So for us, one thing that we realized that our holders really like is actually toys, right? Because we're building 3D models and a lot of our holders are just saying, well, like these 3D models are great, but what else can I do with them? And I think what they're really asking is, we want to feel like what we're buying has a physical form that I can actually, a tangible form that I can actually touch. So, this past weekend, we had a, unofficial kind of, our holder organized a gathering. And one of the things that they did for, as a swag to give out to people that participated in this gathering was these 3D printed toys. They're super tiny, like 1-inch, 8 friends 3D print. But like of all the swags that we gave out, like these stickers and cup holders and whatnot, like that 3D toy was the one thing that kind of everybody just like immediately after they saw it, everybody just responded like overwhelmingly positive to it. So I feel like, at least for us, for Zoofrenz, that's kind of the product that our holders want. So, we'll be focusing on building kind of toys for holders moving forward as much. And then, there's also like clothing pieces as well that we'll be building.
Yeah, I definitely see the thought process there very similar. That you definitely want to put something, as you say, tangible, or what you see from like the Bored Ape community is you see people out taking pictures in their shirts wherever they are, and that just it's a killer thing for a community to do, and so that's something we also we're considering, and the quality is such because I think there is something to be said about you want somebody to be able to hang on to something for a long time, either wear something for a long time or be proud of it to put it on a desk or table, et cetera, on the wall for a long period of time, so that it in its own way, other people see it and have a feeling, ask a question about it or something. So definitely, I appreciate the perspective and that sort of look into it as well. So thank you for that.
Yeah. Let me add a little bit to it because I didn't feel like I had a good answer to that to your question, but yeah, I do feel like it's important because a lot of the times, I think people buy NFTs is because they want to feel special, right? They want to be an early adapter into this brand, and then when it blows up, like Bored Ape, for example, right? That becomes something that is sort of a status symbol that you can show off in among your peers. So for the most part, right now, your peers are people on Twitter or Instagram. If you have a profile pic, then when other people talk to you, when you leave comments, they will feel like, oh, this is an OG in this space. I have respect for it. But it's hard to tie it back into the real world, right? So I think that's where merch comes in. Having a physical merch will help. I mean, not, if you wear a Bored Ape shirt out, maybe people are going to know, but most likely most people are not going to know what it is unless they're already familiar with NFTs. But I do think as a holder, that bolsters kind of your experience of making it more real. So you don't feel like, oh, all these things are just happening in the virtual space. Like I own something, but it's sitting on a blockchain, but not with me when I walk out into the real world.
Yeah, for
so
sure.
That's what the merch does. I think it like really enhances the experience of, at least mentally, like telling you that, hey, this thing is real. It's not just virtual.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. We're still kind of building the blockchain part too, but merch is something on our radar. And I noticed your Zoofrenz account actually retweeted recently. You had some holders meet up IRL. It looked like 20 to 25 people in a gathering there. Were you part of that, or did you learn more about that?
Yeah. We actually had, I think it was like 40, 50 people last week. Yeah, last weekend. I don't know.
I missed out.
What actually, can you tell us about that meetup?
Yeah, so we have a unofficial line group here in Taiwan, where people like holders, they just chat in Chinese online. And the guys in that chat group organized a event. It was really crazy. I sponsored them a little bit of funding for the gathering, but they went all out with planning and then organizing. They had all these activities and swags that they made. Like they basically built a whole merch line on their own. They had these customized print masks. They have like cup holders. They have stickers. They have badges, and then they have those 3D printed toys. It was really crazy. Yeah, I think this is what keeps me going, and seeing all these holders they really love our project, and then we don't really get to see this level of involvement as game developers before. The last time I saw something like this was when I was working at Bungie, working on Halo. That's like $1 billion franchise. So to see something like Zoofrenz to get the same kind of love, it's really, really reassuring that we are building something that means a lot to other people.
I agree. We have Daniel Liu is one of our listeners here. I see actually he just hung out with another DuskBreaker today in Texas. We're sort of aspiring to that group of 40 to 50 people, bringing their 3D printed DuskBreakers, I guess, to a party. And I saw the badges and the stickers and all that stuff. And I was like, oh, they've already got merch, but sounds like a lot of just fan oriented effort there is really, really cool to see. So glad that you're seeing that, and hope that continues, of course, as meeting IRL and online both have their various benefits, hanging out with people like-minded and shared interests. So that's really cool. I think now, obviously it's getting closer to the hour. We do have a fair few listeners in here, so I will open it up to anyone. If you want to raise your hand, we'll pull you up for a question or two for Alex, meta outfitter again of Zoofrenz NFT, founder of Zombot Studio, has been hanging out with us, all evening here, answering some great questions, giving us a lot to think about as well on the DuskBreakers team. So definitely very valuable experience there. If no hands go up, we can continue to chat a little bit. We've got, I can mention actually our community, the art contest that we did not long ago, only 2 weeks ago, had something like 50 entries. We didn't really know what to expect. I was expecting kind of a lot of like MS Paint, recolors. We did a stencil of a gribble, which is kind of our, enemy that we blast in the Play to Mint experience. But a lot of artists just went over the top and, brought their A game for this little contest for some whitelists. It's pretty awesome. And I actually, I see Daniel Liu getting pulled up as a speaker. I could not see his hand because I'm not a co-host. I guess that's what happened there. So, Daniel, welcome to the stage here. And yes, please feel free to ask Alex whatever you like.
Hey, actually, that was an accident, but since I'm on stage, again, thanks for the time. And always just exciting to watch projects that are in this space. I guess one curious question, is you've got a strong holder base in Taiwan. And as I think about Web3 and NFT, it's really an opportunity to focus on global opportunities and building a global community. How do you think about your global community? And, do you have a good sense of the demographics of your holders?
Yeah, that is a great question, and something that we are trying to, I think we're trying to solve internally as a team. So for context, Zoofrenz actually, like our marketing team started out in the States. So initially, I think before the Zombie Club collab, our Discord was mostly English speakers. But then with the kind of announcement from Zombie Club that we have a partnership, they brought in basically all the Chinese community into our Discord. And then from that moment on, which is sometime like maybe 2 weeks before we launched, that our community switched from native kind of English community to a Chinese community. And then in terms of regions, it's a mix between Taiwan, China, Hong Kong, Malaysia, Singapore. So the Southeast Asian countries with decent Chinese population. I think that's where our community is for the most part. And yeah, so what we saw in our community is that once we got swamped by mostly Chinese audiences, the English speakers slowly kind of faded off into the background. And this was not intentional. It's just something that happened. I think because we needed to communicate everything twice, both in Chinese and English, maybe one of the theory that we have internally was maybe this is a little taxing for the English speakers to see like 2 announcements, and then every time they see an announcement, there has to be a Chinese below it. They can't really, it might be the same information, it might not be. Maybe they feel like they're not getting the full experience without knowing Chinese. So we are trying to figure out how to, gain more awareness in the States. I think this is a problem that most kind of Asian-based projects have. Maybe not so much for DuskBreakers, because I know you guys are, primarily kind of Western-based as well. And perhaps this is something I could pick your brains about. But yeah, for example, I went to NFT LA a couple weeks ago, right? And to try to promote Zoofrenz and then get awareness and then connect with other projects. Most projects don't know who we are, and I think that was expected because we're primarily Asian. But even for Zombie Club, where at the time, they were on top 10, top 15 on OpenSea ranking. When I talk to people about Zombie Club, they also don't know. I mean, they know that Zombie Club is on top ranking, but they have no idea what that project is. So, yeah, I mean, this just kind of goes to show that we're still not at a point where, you know, the communities are kind of forming together when there's a, you know, Chinese dominant community. And hopefully this year we can figure out how to solve this problem and get everybody together.
Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, it's interesting to hear about just sort of, you know, how, you know, what the stage your community is in currently, and again, the ambitions, right, for building the Nintendo, right, and just think about the story history of Nintendo and how it got to the States. It's also a really interesting one, right? So again, I will say this, you know, I've got a lot of family in Taiwan, and it's been quite a few years since I've been back, and I've got some young girls now. I've got 2 daughters, and look forward to, you know, bring them to meet their cousins and family and just enjoy the culture. And again, I look forward to when that time happens. You know, there'll be some like Zoofrenz amusement park I can take them to as well. So.
Oh man, that would be fantastic. We'll be working towards that.
No pressure, yeah. So again, I'm not co-host. I can't actually see if any other hands are up. Thank you, Dilu, as usual, for listening and participating. You know, we are kind of at the end of the hour, so I do want to respect everyone's time. Alex, let's give you kind of a final platform here for, you know, any sort of call to action that you'd like to, you know, people to check out specifically, or, you know, keep an eye on. You said next week might be something announced. So, yeah, any just final thoughts before we wrap things up for the evening?
Yeah, sure. So if you're interested in checking out Zoofrenz, you can go to our website, www.zoofrenz.com, ZOOFRENZ. You can find us on OpenSea under Zoofrenz, 8Friends 2.0, 2.0. And then we have, you know, obviously we're metaverse focused. So if you get a NFT right now, you will be able to claim a 3D NFT down the line that allows you to enter into metaverses as we integrate these different platforms into these different platforms. And then, you know, if you hold the 8Friends, you will also be able to generate friendship tokens that will be used later down the road in our ecosystem of future NFT releases. And for those of you guys that are already in our community and are wondering where the 8Friends token are going to be used, we will be making an announcement on our future roadmap, as I mentioned, probably sometime next week. Yeah, so stay tuned for that.
Very cool, very cool. Thank you so much for attending the AMA here. I believe it's very early morning for you, so I'm glad that you're able to make time and share so much with us. Very, very appreciated. And, you know, I hope that the DuskBreakers / Zoofrenz collabs keep coming because, yeah, the project is very cool and we've got a lot of similarities. We can learn from each other and continue to collaborate.
Yeah. I think that's the beauty of Web3, right? It's the collaboration. So we'll definitely keep that going and share our experiences and grow together.
Sweet. So for any listeners here who are less familiar with DuskBreakers, if there's any, you know, Zoofrenz audience listening in, then the DuskBreakers little nuggets of info I have for you are basically we've got a contest running on our Discord right now. It's just a creative contest, very easy, takes 2 minutes to get in, but discord.gg/DuskBreakers, you got a chance to win some whitelists for our next collection slated for quarter 2, which we're in quarter 2 right now. So that means soon, right? Hop on our Discord, check things out for what we're doing as well. We've got more partnerships coming as well, you know, kind of nailing down details here. But this week we dropped another 3D video from our studio in Taipei that's more recently come on and has been just building. We're just trying to keep you guys, you know, interested, and obviously the game experience is what we're all ultimately building towards. So thank you to everyone who came and attended this AMA. Thanks for listening. We're going to, of course, have the recording up on YouTube as well later on. So duskbreakers.gg is our website. Discord.gg/DuskBreakers is where you can come check out all of our community and contests going on right now, where you can win DuskBreakers NFT or future whitelists. So thanks. That's pretty much it for me. Next, we're in a bit of a lull right now while we prep our second collection. I know all the DuskBreakers audience are still making their guesses, and they're anxious for. We've already announced that every DuskBreakers Genesis NFT, which is our only collection right now, will receive one of the next collection. So if you have 10 DuskBreakers, you'll get 10 of the next collection. If you have 20, you'll get 20, etc. So now is a good time to get in, I would say. But that is pretty much all I've got for you here from the community lead side. If Julia, Jason, or Bernie have any additional input, we can just say goodnight otherwise.
So I want to say super happy to have Alex on the show. It was a great get because just fantastic set of information. I want to thank AV and the rest of the Zoofrenz team for making sure it was set up and coordinated across time zones. So thank you everybody from the Zoofrenz community for coming.
Julia or Bernie, we can wrap up.
Julia, you gonna say anything?
No, go ahead. I'm good. I'm done.
All right. Well, yeah, let's wrap this baby up. I mean, you got the Mad Libs contest is still up, so you can go for it. Go win. Get canonicalized, whatever the word is. Also say that for our community, we know that April is we'll sell a lighter month, but we have a big May coming up. So, and May starts next week. So we got a lot coming your way. So we're all very excited. So, Josh, any final words?
No, let's wrap it up. Get everyone off to their Overwatch 2 beta and whatever. So
priorities. Nice.
Yeah. That's what I'm going to be doing anyway. So,
nice.
Have a good night, everyone, or a good day, depending where you're at. Thanks again for attending, and we'll see you soon on discord.gg/DuskBreakers.
Good night, everybody. Thanks.